There are new details about a Trump administration plan that some say could increase deportations across the United States. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, known as ICE, has set up a new system. It's housed within the government agency responsible for unaccompanied migrant children. But there are growing fears it will use DNA to target and deport undocumented immigrants. ICE has been allowed to collect fingerprints and other information from adults who are hoping to sponsor children held in government shelters. According to the Washington Post, President Trump's top immigration advisor, Stephen Miller, developed this plan. He wanted to install an ICE official to oversee the program, but his pick was reportedly rejected by the Department of Health and Human Services. Let's bring in CBS News immigration reporter Camilo Montoya Galvez. He joins me now on set. Camilo, thank you for being with us. Start right now by explaining to me a little bit about the process that migrant children currently go through as it stands now.
Sure, Catherine. So a lot like migrant families and those migrant adults who are encountered by Border Patrol at the border, unaccompanied migrant children who are encountered by Border Patrol agents remain in their custody for a couple of days. The agency, under law and internal guidance, is supposed to transfer them to the Department of Health and Human Services within 3 days. Once that happens, the children wait for a sponsor in HHS custody. Those sponsors tend to be family members. So when a sponsor is found and confirmed and identified by HHS, those children are released, like I said, to family members or other relatives.
Well, just in February, Congress passed a law that was supposed to sort of restrict anything like this happening, ICE from having the ability to maybe track family members who are trying to come and sponsor a child. So how does this fit with that law?
Right. Once House Democrats took control of the House of Representatives, they wanted to establish a sort of firewall between ICE and HHS. And I actually have the passage in the law here. It says federal funds should not be used to place in detention, remove, or refer for a decision whether to initiate removal proceedings, so a deportation, against a sponsor, potential sponsor, or a member of a household of a sponsor for an unaccompanied migrant children. So it specifically targets that demographic, right? Congress said that it did not want ICE to use information on potential sponsors of unaccompanied migrant children to carry out enforcement actions. But I will tell you that ICE told us that this new initiative is compliant with the law, but they did tell us that the law does not protect sponsors who are rejected by HHS. So in their point of view, those potential sponsors who are deemed ineligible to sponsor these children are fair game for enforcement.
So is the theory then basically that each word of the law was written carefully and Stephen Miller possibly found some sort of loophole?
Right. So immigration hardliners like Stephen Miller, who is the president's top immigration advisor, have always believed the sponsorship process for children in U.S. custody is effectively a loophole. They believe undocumented immigrant parents living illegally here in the U.S. send for the children, pay someone to essentially what they believe smuggle them into the country for Border Patrol agents to take them in their custody, for them to be sent to the Department of Health and Human Services. And then once they are in this agency's custodies, they can come and claim them. The administration and some officials in it, like Miller, wants to crack down on that practice. They want parents to fear going forward and claiming their children as a matter of deterrence.
You talked to ICE about this. We know ICE spokesperson Brian Cox told us the initiative is designed to prevent migrant children in U.S. custody from living with sponsors who may be dangerous. So what do the advocates for migrant children have to say about this if the argument is it's to actually keep the children safe?
Right, that's important, right? From ICE's point of view, this is a simple program, right? We don't want children to be placed in dangerous environments with potentially dangerous sponsors. But advocates fear that this new initiative will nevertheless send a chilling effect to all sponsors, particularly those without a legal status, who will fear that they might be detained and deported if they go to HHS and claim their children.
So what happens to the children then who depend on these sponsors and the sponsors may be deported? What happens to those kids who are in shelters?
Right, that's a great question, Catherine, because the only way to get out of the system is to find a sponsors. So that's a relative, a friend of a relative, someone who the agency determines will be able to take care of this child. If no sponsor is found, the kid and the kid remains in HHS custody and could remain in there until he or she turns 18. But once they turn 18, they may be subject to arrest and detention by ICE because they are considered adults here. And if they have found no legal recourse to adjust their status, the ICE may deport them.
Well, and we already know that the entire country is suffering to find foster homes, foster families, and safe foster homes and foster families who will take in any children in need. So we're already struggling there.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And this is just another layer to that.
Camilo, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Catherine.